Good afternoon. Today we're here with Bob Van Dyke, President and CEO of Van Dyke Healthcare. How you doing, Bob?
Good, Chris.
Great. We're at the 68th AHCA NCAL annual convention. Lots of people here today, lots of questions. Bob, we're seeking some guidance and insight from you. Could you tell us a little bit about your organization?
Sure. Ours is family owned. My dad started the company in 1953, so 64 years right now. I took over the company 24 years ago. We presently operate 2 skilled buildings. We have an assisted living facility. We have a memory care center within our assisted living. We have a home care company, and we're now breaking ground for daycare for people with Alzheimer's and dementia.
So very strategic. You have the continuum of care, and you're located in New Jersey. Could you tell us, with the changes that are occurring regulatory and reimbursement wise, what keeps you up at night?
Well, what's keeping me up is the number of changes and how quickly they're occurring. It'd be one thing if there were changes being passed down and we had time to adapt and we had time to train, but we're getting so many changes so quickly. That is causing me to stay up at night. And what's happening is I'm having to add staff in order to develop new policies, new procedures, the training of all the staff on the new policies and procedures. There's a lot of time and money being invested in trying to keep up with all of these regs. And that's probably the thing that is most challenging for us, is the number and the speed at which we keep getting hit with new regulations.
And there are 2 things that come to mind in that context. Number one, do you think that the speed is a product of technology, meaning the word can get out faster? And the assumption is that, well, I sent you this information, that one would roll it out quicker, but it's not really that easy to do. So how is technology influencing your...
When I talk about the speed, I'm not really talking about technologically. I'm talking about how quickly CMS is coming out with new regulations, one right after the other.
Yes.
New forms of reimbursement being suggested and looked at one right after the other. And trying to keep up with all of that.
Yep.
And we're just having to devote so many man hours just to reading the new regulations, understanding them, and then how we're going to be able to implement them across all of our homes.
Understood, yes.
And that's the speed at which I'm saying there's so many, so fast, it's overwhelming.
It's overwhelming, yes.
Yeah.
I understand that. So the mega rule, the draft which came out not this past August, the August before, was 800 pages.
Yes.
So to distill and synthesize it took weeks. And then they have the follow-up rule. And in the first part of this requirements of participation, it talked about the patient population and the complexity, how it has evolved in the skilled nursing facility setting. Where I think I'm going is that the mandates, the requirements are so intense and complex and fast, there has to be some reimbursement for that. If you are going to train, educate, and add more staff, that's where I'm hopeful that, because the expectations are person-centered care, facility assessments, and I agree with you 100%, it requires more manpower.
Yes. All across the board, you're correct. It's going to take a lot more manpower to do everything we need to do. And from a reimbursement point of view, there's no hope in sight. We're not paid extra for doing more. The expectations are somehow do more with what you have. And, oh, by the way, do it better than you're doing it with what you have. And that's a struggle at times, trying to understand why they think we can do that. I will say we do everything we can. We try very hard. We work very hard at accomplishing those tasks to those ends. But it's going to be a challenge, definitely.
Have you done anything that would be helpful for the viewers to hear? And because you've been successful, you are successful, and you're navigating through this, but maybe you figured something out that would be helpful to the viewers.
Well, if we're talking about just the regulation side, that's one piece. But if you're talking about how are we navigating through all of the I don't want to say just the reimbursement, but this new era of healthcare. We're being looked upon, and the expectations are that the post-acute care facilities are going to help keep people from being readmitted. We're sort of in that middle. The hospitals are discharging more quickly. We have the patients, if we have the patients at all, we're expected to care for them quickly, get them home, and then hopefully do it in such a manner that once they're home, there's no need to go back to the hospital. So the hospital's giving them to us sick. We're having to care for them and make sure that they don't have to go back to the hospital. So, the concept of lower length of stay, shorter readmission, better outcomes, oh sure, piece of cake. But one of the things, some of the things we've been doing in order to do this is we're specializing. And so we've developed cardiac programs. We have our trademarked Heartways is a cardiac care program. We have an in-house cardiac nurse practitioner. We have a very robust pulmonary respiratory program. We have an in-house respiratory therapist, respiratory therapy nurse practitioner. We have a pulmonologist who comes through a couple days a week. Our length of stay on pulmonology and respiratory cases just blows the national average out of the water. I mean, we went from here all the way down to there. Same with cardiac care. Our length of stay has dropped, our readmissions have dropped, our outcomes have improved. So what we're trying to do to be relevant and be here for the long run is our goal is to become the preferred provider of the hospitals and health systems in our marketplace. And the things we're doing have actually worked. We're a 5-star facility.
Congratulations.
We're a
That's
preferred
amazing.
provider. We have the specialty programs. One of the other new specialty programs we're in development is wound care.
Fantastic, yes.
And
yes.
so we're going to have to be specialists. We're going to have to be the best at what we do. And in doing so, our belief is the hospitals and others will recognize that. A friend of mine just yesterday was saying he's trying to do all the right things, but the hospitals are not paying attention. And my advice is keep doing the right thing. It's not an easy road for us. No one said that this industry, this profession was easy. And so my staff have even said, why are we doing this? We're not getting more patients. And I just keep going back to do the right thing. Outcomes are going to be critical, and collect data. If I had one piece of advice to anyone watching of my peers is data collection, data collection, data collection.
Excellent.
I don't know if you remember a management guru named Deming, Edward
I
Deming.
did my thesis on Dr. Deming.
Okay.
And I did it in healthcare, so I'm with
All
you.
right, so-
You're preaching to the choir.
Okay, so Dr. Deming is attributed, this quote is attributed to him, "In God we trust, everyone else bring data." And that is really where we are in our health system. We as post-acute providers must be collecting copious amounts of data, analyzing that data, so that we can show the ACOs, the bundlers, the hospitals, the health systems, managed care, Aetna, you name it. I've been doing this for a while, and I haven't always felt the love right away, because some of the hospitals and health systems themselves aren't sure what to do with all this. They're all still struggling, many of them are still struggling to figure out where they're going to fit, how they're going to make money in this whole population health concept. So I've been doing it regardless of the love. And we're now starting to see that respect, and that they're coming to us, they're including us in meetings. We are now at the table. We'll get an admission that's too soon, ends up being readmitted. Instead of now blaming us, we're going to them and saying, you admitted them too soon. We do a pre-assessment. We get back to the hospital and say, I know you want to discharge them today, but we believe if you keep them for 2 more days, there won't be a readmission. And they're confidence in us is growing and growing and growing. And that's, to me, my advice to my peers and my friends and colleagues. Just keep doing the right thing, collect lots of data. And I think it will come.
Well, it's interesting. I've never met you prior to this, and three things that you hit on is, number one is I'm a big believer of Dr. Deming, and I think that the requirements of participation are threaded in with it. Number two, respiratory therapy, because the number one cause of hospital readmissions is respiratory related. So you're actually on top of your game. Data, respiratory therapy, specialize, because when you complete that facility assessment, you then need competencies. So that specialization will give you the efficiency of continuing with your success. We thank you so much for coming today.
You're welcome.
And good luck with everything. We look forward to seeing you soon.
Thanks.
Thank you very much.
Sure.
Thank you.